Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. Today I'm going to be doing a recommendation video for Diversathon. I was going to do a top 5, but then I was like, man, let's just do an extra few. So let's dive in. If you're looking for something a little bit more LGBTQ friendly, but you're not really... I right now am really struggling with the idea of reading a lot of nonfiction because I'm really on edge personally. So this is Affinity by Sarah Waters, and this has an LGBTQ relationship, specifically a lesbian relationship, and it is talking about the Victorian era as well as incarceration and dark magic, and it could be just a really interesting, kind of spooky, fun read, but also have a little bit of conversation about the relationship of two females. I also find that the thing about Sarah Waters that I really appreciate is she doesn't make it about the fact that they are two females. She just makes it two people in a relationship, and therefore it's not otherized. It's just is what it is. This I received yesterday and I sat down and quickly read the whole thing. I couldn't put it down. This is Bandy's The Accusation. I received this for review from Grove Press and I loved it. It was really heart-wrenching, really hard to read. Probably not the best thing for me to have read, but it was a necessary book and I read it for Diversathon, so absolutely fantastic. I think for me this was a really scary book because what it is, fictional short stories based on the true life of people in North Korea, and Bandy is still in North Korea as far as I know and is getting these stories out and then having them translated to kind of talk about the everyday life in North Korea, and it is gut-wrenching and depressing and scary, and I feel really privileged because of this book. And then if you're looking for something to talk about Black literature, so this is phenomenal. This is The Darkest Child. This is by Dolores Phillips. I read this for, I think, Booktubeathon like 6 months ago, and I whizzed through it. It was a one-day read for me, even though it was, yeah, it's almost 400 pages, and I just sat down for 8 hours and gobbled it up, and it was incredible. It talks about the 1950s in Georgia and the experience of a young child who is Black and what it's like living under the roof of a woman who has favorite children. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. It's just an unbelievable story, and I really enjoyed it. I think that it's one of the best books out there right now to talk about the Black experience, and I've read quite a few lately, but I really think that this one is something special and something different, and it is also written as an own voice from the experience of a Black woman. And next we have this. This is Idaho. This I read in 2 days. It's by Emily Roshvich. This is a story from multiple perspectives, one of them being the second wife of a man with dementia, and the man with dementia's first wife has been incarcerated for something, and you experience with her watching his dementia deteriorate. You experience some really dark moments, some scary things, some sadness, some lapses in memory, some scare, like it was incredible. It's the only 5-star read I've had so far this year. I really recommend it to anybody who's curious about the experience of dementia and Alzheimer's, what it's like to watch your brain deteriorate, and the experience of loss of a person almost as if they no longer exist and the illness is taking over them. It's a really hard experience to watch. I've watched it now twice with both of my mom's parents. There is also the point of view of the cellmate of the first wife and the experience inside of a jail. So that's got a couple of different stories. Next, as far as mental health, if you wanted to go as far as to have a, because for some Diversathon may be about reading diverse stories, but it also may feel a little heavy. And I can totally understand that. Right now, I'm struggling with that myself. As much as I want to read heavier books that really give a lot of information and kind of charge you to do more and to read more and to understand more, it's really hard to do that. And it sometimes is really exhausting on you. So this is a good one to read if you're feeling exhausted. This is Planetfall, and I've spoken about this before. It's by Emma Newman. This discusses anxiety, day-to-day life with anxiety, the experience of cults, and what happens when your brain kind of shifts to try and experience life in a different way that is trying to explain cult-like behavior. It's really, really interesting and really dives into that psychology, and it really does it in a gentle way, but you still get that experience. Then we have this. This is a nonfiction. This is this is The Man Who Couldn't Stop, OCD and the True Story of a Life Lost in Thought, and this is by David Adam, and I really enjoyed this. I'm going to be doing a full-length review on it as soon as possible. Really diving into and experiencing the different ways that OCD can affect a person, whether it be through thought or action or just, you know, not just actions like, you know, tapping or touching. It can also be experiences of they need to eat the same thing every day at some time. And it's just this obsessive way of functioning that really changes and really, really affects your day-to-day life. So this is a really good one if you're curious about OCD. And then if you're willing to get a little deeper and really feel some gut-wrenching stuff, this is an amazing book. This is Wasted, a memoir by Maria Hornbacher. Now this is my all-time favorite book talking about eating disorders. It is gut-punching, it is devastating, it is beautiful, it is breathtaking. I loved it so much, and it really changed my experience with food, and it changed my relationship with food, and it really eye-opened me to how much I rely on food and my own eating disorder of binge eating, and that was a really hard experience for me, but it was well worth it. If you are curious at all or have someone in your life who suffers from an eating disorder, this is a really good insight into that life and that lifestyle and that brain that just feels so foreign potentially. So this is incredible. Then on a YA note, we have this. It's kind of a funny story by Ned Vizzini. This is an own story. This is about, it's a fictionalized depiction of the author's experience in a mental health facility after suicidal ideations. So this is a really, really important book because actually we did lose Mr. Ned Vizzini to suicide after this book was written, and there's so much more he could have done, I'm sure, but unfortunately he was taken by depression and he died of suicide. And so it's just heartbreaking, and this book really, really talks about that experience of him from a younger age and what it was like to experience such ennui and sadness and fear. So this is incredible. And then for those of you who are really, really wanting to read about diversity but have a little bit more of a magical realism kind of interest right now, if you want something that's a lot more easy to digest and a little more fairy tale-esque, this would be my recommendation for you. This is Little Nothings by Marissa Silver. This was incredible. This talks about diversity as far as deformity. It takes place in a small community where there is a young girl who is a dwarf, and her experience in her life. It's definitely got magical realism aspects to it, fairy tale stories. It's really, really wonderful, but you do get to experience and kind of hear the experience of this girl with a different type of upbringing because of her physical appearance. So those would be my recommendations for Diversathon. All of them are very, very different from one another, and they all kind of feel like you can go any way on the spectrum as far as what you want to read on diversity. So I really, really hope that that helps some of you. I hope that it brings some books to light. I know a few of them I've talked about a couple of times, but they're all goodies. They're oldies but goodies. So I figured I'd remind you. All right, I will see you guys next time. Bye!